Hey, vinyl community and other viewers, Mazzy here, and I'm in Seattle, and I have Bob Bradley of the Bob Bradley Channel in Kentucky.
Bam, Bob here. What's up? Hey,
Great
Mazzy, how
guitar
you
player.
doing?
Great guitar player. What's the name of your band again?
Condors in the System.
Okay. Is
You see
he?
that?
You can
Kind of
get
an
a mug.
alien there.
Is that available in the merch shop?
No,
That's a one-off. Okay.
yeah, it's just mine.
Bob's been doing some cool works in progress videos of during the recording. Are you in the midst of it? How far along are you?
All the guitars are finally done, so it's bass and this all the singing.
Are you
It's
all the
left.
guitars?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. God, is a regular Paul McCartney or Emmett Rose?
Woo!
Or
No, I don't know about that, but
anyway, the concept this time is that I thought about is first and last albums. Now,
right.
let me preface this by a couple things. First and last, is it last because they're dead? Last because the band broke up? And
Sure.
then do you count last? And then when the band friggin' reforms 10, 20, 30 years later with one guy or four guys or maybe the original.
Right.
So I have a few cheating things that slip along.
I left it to interpretation.
Okay,
So,
that's good.
Yeah.
And
So I thought of all that. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and a couple of my artists have really long careers and some tempestuous ones, and we can talk. We'll see how this goes back and forth.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
We're going to start with Bob.
Oh, we're going to start with me. Okay. Well, that's easy.
You're the visiting team. I get the last, bottom of the ninth.
Okay. Well, when I was doing this, I was thinking about it, and there's this thing that goes around, like if you talk to your friends about records and doing what we're doing now, kind of a record hang. People always kind of fall on this thing like, yeah, the first album was their best record. You hear that all the time. It's like, yeah, well, their first record was the best.
Because they've been saving up.
Yeah, exactly. They've been doing all that work and they're finally starting to see some payoff for all the stuff they've been doing, all the times they failed. So, that they're finally starting. Anyhow, so I chose this as my first record. Bam. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. This is their first album, two monster hits on this record, Breakdown, American Girl, typical Tom Petty record, huge open chords on the guitars, Telecasters, Rickenbackers,
the Roger
Fender
McGuinn
amps,
sound.
Oh yeah, big time. Oddly enough, Flying V on the logo. Never see these guys with Flying V's,
Exactly.
But
right.
well.
Right.
Mine is a reissue on that MCA Coral, that reissue label that they had.
They put me out of work. I worked for ABC for 2 years. I worked for ABC 77, 78, 79, and then MCA bought ABC and we all lost our jobs. So I worked on that album and the second one.
Yeah, so this pressing is around 1981, 82 or whatever. It's a great record, without those two monster hits, I don't know how successful this record would have been. Honestly, the rest of the songs they're good, they're solid, they're Tom Petty tunes,
Yeah.
And the last record, Hypnotic Eye, shortly before we lose Tom, and I'm not counting any of those live records that they do at in between.
I didn't include posthumous either or anything. Yeah.
This is kind of a continuation to the Mojo record for me. It's what it kind of sounded like to me. Mike gets this Les Paul right before they do the Mojo record, and they kind of decide to do like some blues kind of numbers and some kind of old kind of stuff from their youth, which is an interesting concept because I chose this stack of records right here in a weird way, kind of, sometimes when I hear a song, I get this feeling, and I don't know what you would really call it. It's not necessarily, it's not, some people might say it's like a nostalgia or like a kind of a pulling your heartstrings kind of a feeling. I don't know what it is. It's kind of painful, but it's not necessarily bad. It's not necessarily good. I don't know what the feeling is. I hear these songs and it's attached to my to growing up, and I'm like, ugh, I don't know what, it's an undescribable thing. But when I hear these Tom Petty tunes, I get that feeling. I'm like, there's a connection there. There's an emotional response that these tunes are getting from me. And this record is just it's a solid record. They weren't trying to make any hits or, you know, revitalize their career. I don't think. I think they just wanted to make an old school kind of psychedelic rock record.
I love those last records. That one, Last DJ, which I consider, that's been a while, but that series of Warner Brothers records, I think the covers are stupendous. The Last DJ with his long hair.
Yeah.
But you're right. They sound really good. There's a good warm kind of your stomach kind of feels all warm and fuzzy when you listen to them, but they're not great songs like those other records.
No, it's not the same thing. Yeah.
No. They don't stand out song-wise, but they work as sort of albums of a certain feel, right?
That's it. Pressed at Palace.
Yeah.
Mastered by Bernie Grundman. So at RTI. So.
Okay.
So that's my first.
Okay.
That's my first two records, Mazzy.
I'm gonna cheat right off the bat in a way, because one of my artists that I talk about ad nauseum is Warren Zevon. Warren Zevon made an album in 1969 called Dead and Alive, put it under the name Zevon. I'm throwing that out. It was a bomb record. It was originally, the producer was Kim Fowley, the tempestuous Kim Fowley, who worked with the Runaways and all that kind of stuff, and Fights, and it was on Liberty Records, and it basically bombed, went nowhere. I'm throwing that out. He goes on the road and becomes a piano player or music arranger for the Everly Brothers for a few years. But then he hooks up with Jackson Browne and Asylum and does his self-titled record, Warren Zevon. I'm counting this as the first record. Hey, it's my channel. I do the fuck what I want.
Hey, I'm
doing it for the people out there that are going to like write friggin' comments there. To me, this is one of the best records written about sort of the dark belly underside of LA. The sort of it's like a noir record in a way.
Mm-hmm.
It's upbeat but dark. It's 1975, 76 actually. And it's produced by Jackson Browne, and it's got all the sort of Illuminati of LA at the time. It's got Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham and a few of the Beach Boys and Bonnie Raitt, and obviously who else? David Lindley and Waddy Wachtel, great LA session, and players that played with all those people. Glenn Fry and Don Henley. And just the harmonies, Warren Zevon doesn't have a great voice, but he's got a voice that's very attractive to the right kind of person. And all these great harmonies behind him. And in fact, on the final song, Desperados Under the Eaves, which is a beautiful closeout, the closing harmonies are by the, quote, Gentleman Boys. And that's arranged by Carl Wilson. And it's Carl Wilson, Jackson Browne, and a couple other people. So great. In fact, Phil Everly even does a duet on, I think it's Carmelita here. That's
awesome.
Right. Anyway, one of the songs, Glenn Fry. So it's a great song, dark, underbelly. I was sitting in the Hollywood Hawaiian Cafe. I was listening to the air conditioner hum, all the salty margaritas in Los Angeles. I'm going to drink them down. If California slides into the ocean like the mystics say it will, I believe this hotel will be standing until I pay my bill. And all the harmonies come up. And he actually writes his own orchestration. He kind of was influenced by Aaron Copland, the great composer. Met him a couple times, but all the orchestration bits on his albums are that. I know I went on too long with this one, but this is one of my all-time, in my top.
It's a great record. Yeah.
Last one, I'll be faster with The Wind. The Wind. He was dying of cancer when he was recording this album. Half the time he's lying on his couch or on the floor with a mic to vocals. You hear it in his voice. His friends came back. Springsteen's on it. Everybody's on this record. And the Keep Me in Your Heart. This is like his only #1 album. And unfortunately, you got to fucking die and be on David Letterman.
That's correct. Yeah.
Record, But there is a great kind of ominous version they do. Talk about dark black humor. Knocking on Heaven's Door. They cover that song.
Right.
So that's the last one.
Serious record.
Not a good It's not a great record. One of his best, only because
the circumstances around it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to bring it back, like 1967, bam, The Doors, this thing is chock-a-block full of,
Watch your glare there. Getting glare. There.
Let me make an adjustment.
You got your gaffer set, Reese, doing the lighting there?
Yeah. Big time. Tons of tunes on this record. Everybody knows it. It is the Doors record. Opens, Break On Through, right? Probably one of the most spectacular tunes of the whole
Great
Doors
opening
catalog.
That what isn't that a keyboard bass that opens it up?
Yeah, of course. The Crystal Ship, 20th Century Fox, Light My Fire, all on side one. I mean, side two, just as epic. The cover, I mean, this is it doesn't get much better than this. But
right.
Speaking of LA, the sound, the personification of LA, the Doors, LA Woman, what do they call this, Mazzy? Lenticular, right? Lenticular.
Well, that's a die cut. It's a die cut. It's got a cellophane. Is that original? It's got a cellophane.
Yeah.
Die cut.
Yeah.
Lenticular is like.
Oh, right. That's
the Rolling Stones.
Yeah. Oh, the moving one. Yeah. So this is the
Jesus
die cut
winking at you. Jesus Christ
with the yellow lens. Yeah. This is cool. This is, thing about this is Riders on the Storm is on this, and probably my all-time favorite Doors tune. When I was young, I was working in like I got a part-time job at an amusement park that was doing a really spectacular haunted house, and they play this like spooky music throughout the whole amusement park, and they just play these tunes, Werewolf in London and Riders on the Storm, in repetition. And it was just like, oh God, or this again. But by the time it was over, I was like, this song has the most incredible introduction to any song ever, and, a lot of people poo-poo Jim, and they say, his lyrics are so kind of, everybody makes a big deal out of him and his poetry, but it's really just like the Cat in the Hat and, all that. But if you really kind of look past all that and get past the parody that you can't help but to develop when you become so famous and such a household thing, if you can get past all that stuff and say, okay, yeah, Morrison is Morrison, and he, made an ass out of himself many times, but
get in line.
Yeah, but if you could come back around, you start to really see the true genius of Jim Morrison and the Doors, and the spectacular band. The sound of LA, I think,
Well, it's funny. I'm not always a fan of, but I think wasn't that Fender Rhodes that comes in or something? It sounds like.
Well, it's a Vox Continental, I believe, but yeah, but it's like
got
the
that
one
kind
with
of
the black
sound
keys.
at the time.
Yeah, it's kind of got when it, sometimes it sounds sort of like a Ray Charles tune coming in, because it's doing all that kind of cool stuff. But that's what turns a lot of people off to the Doors is when I say, do you like the Doors? A lot of people say, no, I hate organs,
It's not
and I'm
that.
just like,
it's not
I'm
that.
like,
they missed the boat. That was the perfect band for him. And I love that he never was, I don't know if he was tempted or not to do the Jim Morrison solo thing, because the sound, they were kind of minimal, but in a really interesting way. They never really had a bass player except for, one album.
Lonnie Mack, right?
Right. Was it Lonnie Mack? On that one album. I mean, the one that I always kind of joke about, that's still a nice one. That's a nice, is, was it the blue covered Soft Parade album? I think it's the song tell all the people that with the trumpets and everything. It sounds like he's trying to be
Sure.
like some crooner, and it's such a weird song, but I love
Well,
that.
the whole band is just so bizarre, really, because it is like it's sort of loungy, but yet psychedelic, and just like
Yeah.
it's just from another planet. And if you listen to, well, if you're familiar with the band Stone Temple Pilots,
Yeah.
um, after that first record, like they're all their records from that point on are all based off of the tune "My Eyes Have Seen You." You know that tune,
Oh yeah, yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
Doors. Yeah, I mean the vocal, Scott Weiland's vocals and everything are just directly lifted from the Doors.
So
It's amazing.
you're not counting the post Jim Morrison records like
No, I do
Mama Better
no. Like,
Mosquito, won't you play my burrito? Okay, you
listen,
know
we
that's
can count them as Doors records.
do you know that
Okay,
song?
yes, I do. But
That is the biggest, the most played Door song.
what?
There's a video of him talking about it because it's like the Spanish thing in Latin America and the rest of the
Oh
fucking
well.
world. It's bizarre when you know that little fact. Right? I think it's hysterical.
Yeah,
Yeah, you don't.
but my deal is like all these bands have these phases they go through where they're like the original like non-watered down part, then they go through a big change, and then the third phase is like somebody's dead and they got to keep going, or they're trying to recreate what they did when they were when they were
Yeah,
young.
yeah.
So
Well, they did bring in what's his name, Rick. Who did they bring in the guy from the
um
church? No,
yeah, but yeah,
no, one of those guys.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
it'll come to me.
Okay. I'm going way back, and I'm going to America's answer to the Beatles. And who is that?
It is the birds. No, it's a who is it?
The Beau Brummels.
The Bo.
Laugh, laugh. I thought I'd die. Okay. A lot of people don't think
The
they're the answer to the
Brummels are
Beatles,
the
but
answer to the Beatles.
hear me out now, babe.
Hmm.
Bob Bradley, the Bob Bradley channel. Hear me out. Number one,
All right,
San Francisco band, the Beau Brummels.
okay,
1964. Bird's first album didn't come out till 65.
right.
San Francisco. Big Tom Donahue, DJ of KYA Radio, and who was the creator of underground radio at KMPX in KSAN in San Francisco, had started this record company, Autumn Records, with a producer by the name of, anyway, Sly Stone, who was Sly Stone.
Oh,
Sly
oh,
Stone
okay.
was a DJ also, produced
Right.
the record. Laugh Laugh was a major American 45 and considered the answer to the Beatles. There was nothing like this in 1964, late 64, when this came out. So Autumn Records, the Beau Brummels, Sal Valentino. Anyway, the two main guys, Ron Elliott and Sal Valentino, sort of continued on. But single, very catchy. The other one was Just a Little, and I forgot the other song. Anyway, really catchy in that kind of Mercy beat way, yet they're from San Francisco. He would later go on to, there was a San Francisco band in the late 60s, early 70s called Stoneground that were on Warner Brothers records that he was involved with. Great singer. Now, their last official record when they broke up is considered a tie, even though not the famous tie, with Sweetheart of the Rodeo, the first country rock record, and that's Bradley's Barn. This is their last album of the original band, although this is, by the point this was made at Owen Bradley's studio.
I like what you did there.
Owen Bradley's studio. It's a country rock record, and I think it's around the same time or a month or two or within Sweetheart of the Rodeo. Both albums flopped, obviously, at the time. Everyone now talks about Sweetheart of the Rodeo, which is the better record. However, this is a great record. It was reissued as a double album with alternate cuts at Record Store Day a couple years ago, which is really worthwhile. You should get it. But they did reform in 1975, the original member to do this. And this was produced by Ted Templeton, the great A&R producer at Warner Brothers Record. This is a great sound. two of the songs on here were from their early incarnation. And this is a wonderful sounding record. It's a little have the slickness like the 74, 75 Fleetwood Mac is slick, but a gorgeous sound. And his singing again on this is just gorgeous. So Sal Valentino is sort of the great underrated voices of the whole scene here in a country way. Really interesting stuff. Triangle's a cool record too. That's somewhat psychedelic, but they don't seem to get their dues. But the Beau Brummels an important America's answer to the Beatles, at least San Francisco's answer to the Beatles.
Okay, it's interesting. Little segue.
It's okay.
We're going to Washington State, right at suburbs of Seattle, Nirvana, Bleach, recorded for. This is kind of the,
$17 it cost, $400 or something.
600 bucks to record it. Kurt Cobain, tons. Aberdeen, that's right. Tons of comparisons to Lennon. They're not even in the same, they're not even in the same realm, I don't think, in reality. But we would have liked to have thought that he was that he was on the level, but maybe not. That said, I do love this record because of it. When when Kurt takes a solo, there's no rhythm guitar. It's just bass and drums. It's a legit, authentic 3-piece experience. There's 2 different drummers on this record because they were going through some lineup changes, But the drumming's pretty good. There's some really solid tunes on this. In particular, Love Buzz, which if you have a 45 of that, you're sitting on,
don't got it.
A gold mine, or School, or About a Girl. This is a raw, very kind of aggressive record. I love it. It's also pressed at RTI. This is a 2005 Sub Pop release, kind of very similar to the original one. It's not like a Rhino or anything. It's an actual one that they had pressed by RTI. It's sounds very, very good. Last record.
What, they made 3 records, right?
Well, yeah, 4. But one is kind of there's a record called Incest Aside, which is like right after Bleach, kind of bridges the gap between that and Nevermind. But
not counting.
And I don't count Unplugged, no.
Yeah.
And this record here, Alex by Alex Gray, artwork by Alex Gray. When I went and visited Alex Gray, and when I was looking at his art and it dawned on me that he did this, I was like, oh shit, I've been staring at this record for years, and then all of a sudden I'm staring at the artwork going, oh, of course, So, and if you don't know Alex Gray, he's the guy who does all the Tool artwork, and he did that fantastic the inside gatefold of the Beastie Boys. I think it's maybe Ill Communication. So, but yeah, this record, Steve, as I don't know how to say it. I heard Lionel Richie say Albini. I always call him Steve Albini. Yeah, I always call him Albini.
Well, we see a lot of people on the other. I've said this on things. A lot of people on the other side of the pond keep trying to tell me that Sinatra's label is Reprise, and it's Reprise. And any chance I get to say it's Reprise. So.
But the he did the engineering on this record and was producing, and then of course the label heard it and was like, there's no commercial hits on this record, and they remixed Heart-Shaped Box and All Apologies, which of course are the 2 mega monster hits off the record. But overall, this is a pretty good record. Now, to me, the whole Kurt Cobain thing is kind of, it's like teenager angst music. I mean, as far as lyrically, to me, there were factions in Seattle, and you know, it's all just rock music as far as I'm concerned. The whole grunge
that whole
thing
thing
was
is
just,
before my time. I kind of missed the grunge, but I was like raising a son during that time. I mean, I got in on Nevermind. Obviously, I love that. But you know, I tell you, I watched a couple documentaries on the guy. I forgot his name. The guy that one of the partners of Sub Pop, and talk about hitting the lottery when they sold to Geffen, and Geffen paid them
yeah,
off. And then for whatever reasons at the last minute, you know, he thought they had to give that first record, and they said, "No, you can keep that," right? And
yeah,
then,
yeah. And it's their all-time best-selling record. That Bleach record is.
no
Yeah.
kidding, and
So
it paid for a lot of, a lot of,
yeah,
yeah, we say so many bands.
everything.
Yeah.
But let me save you some time. I'm going to bring some controversy to this video real
Okay.
fast.
No, we want controversy.
Good,
Fuck, we
because
hate
I'm
that.
gonna.
I want
That's
more
right.
of it in here.
Best '90s alternative from the whole scene. The best record is Soundgarden Super Unknown.
Okay.
So
I don't have a
yeah,
CD of that. I have it on CD.
yeah,
Interesting.
it's the best one. It's
It's such,
easily the
you know,
best
I've been
one.
here in Seattle for 6 years now, and I found it's such a clique. But also, you know, growing up in San Francisco, we had our clique too. But still, everyone it's a musician here, or was a musician, or whether they work in a bar, restaurant, a cafe, or
Sure.
everyone's in a band, and they know each other. You know, I spent
Right.
an hour last year with some friends at this cafe I go work. A friend of mine owns. I'm sitting there for an hour. This guy says, "Can I sit with you?" And they knew him because they're locals, and these are friends of mine. We talk music. I only met him through the cafe. I don't know him outside. And this guy looks really familiar to me because I don't know all the players. And halfway through, I opened my laptop like I am right across from him, and I'm looking. Oh, this guy's in a band, and I kind of thought, is this one of the Pearl Jam guys? Because it's West Seattle, and it was Jeff Emmett, the bass
Oh,
player. And I had
yeah,
no
sure.
idea what he looked like. I hate to say it, so sorry. All right, I'm going the long ball game right now.
Okay.
Neil Young, first album
Oh,
before his name was on the cover, the first
ooh,
pressing
nice.
of this album. Uh,
Mm,
in reality, a second album is better than the first album in this case. That's, I think. I love this record, but
great
Everyone
record.
Knows This Is Nowhere, I think, is the better album of the two, has the better track.
Fantastic record.
Totally fantastic. You know, Neil Young, I'm going to be doing a Neil Young long term with someone next week, I think, or some point. And he's one of these guys I think is so amazing, and he frustrates the hell out of me. And he's like, you know, the change. If you ever hear him talk about what he's going to put out, forget it. It's never going to happen. And if he says it's going to happen, he changes his mind halfway through. You know, the Buffalo Springfield reunion, they played a couple of gigs, and all those people in the band, you know, were ready to go, and he just like nicks at the last minute. You know, whatever he wants to.
Right.
Anyway, Neil Young, 1968, 69. I'm thinking, I'm blanking out. You know which year.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and then
Beautiful cover.
and yeah, I love his artwork on almost every record, even his bad ones. You know, Trans. Okay.
Trans, yeah, yeah.
And then I like this album. Came out last year, Colorado. This is sort of again with Crazy Horse, and I love that Nils Lofgren is brought back into it. I think Nils Lofgren is one of the great underrated guitar. Everyone knows him as, you know, the second or the Bruce Springsteen's guitar player now for what, 25 years.
Sure.
I used to see him, you know, I remember I have albums by Grin that the band he had with his brother. His solo albums are really melodic and amazing guitar player. A&M Records thought that he would have been the next Peter Frampton for a live album after Frampton Comes Alive, and they put out this kind of bootleg promo to radio stations, and all the radio people said release that, and they never did, and they just fucked it up. Anyway, Colorado, good album, you know, typical jammy, ongoing. Crazy Horse. If you're into Crazy Horse, if you get Crazy Horse, this is a great record. Some people get them, some people don't. But the last album, and I'm not
beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I'm not talking about any of the archive series, which I think are amazing.
Yes.
Him, Miles Davis, Bob Dylan, to me, have the greatest archive series. It's like official bootleg stuff coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Mazzy, you know a lot about this person. Bjork, or as they call it,
I almost
the jerk.
I almost picked her.
Yeah, can't go wrong. Debut, phenomenal record.
Right.
Really, kind of a earth moving record for me. When I heard this for the first time, I thought, "What is that?" And I gotta get some more of that.
Were you
And
listening to Sugar Cubes at
um,
all?
yeah, I love
Yeah.
the Sugar Cubes. That was MTV times for me. If you watched those late night programs like what was it, 120 Minutes
Oh yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
all that. Yeah, yeah, they used to play those Sugar Cubes albums and songs, no records. But this is I don't know. This is from a few years back. These are pretty good pressings of records. I think they're from
I have those. They're about
like
5 years ago,
12,
4 or 5 years
yeah,
ago.
maybe so, 13 or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And yeah, sound, sounds really good. But this is what I was talking about earlier, Mazzy. Like Bjork, she's a landmark artist, like nobody like her, like completely phenomenal in every way, but so unique, so distinctive, so extraordinary that she can literally Bjork any track, you know?
And she
Like
does it. She does
she
it.
does it. Yeah, yeah, she does it. So,
Over the top
at,
sometimes and acquired
yeah,
taste for some people. Some people can't handle it.
which brings this in
Yeah,
Utopia,
I
right?
got it.
It's like fantastic ear candy, you know, but it's just like, she does the quiet singing, then she does and she's got these moves that she does, and it's like she could be. It's kind of like eating Cajun food. They could put those spices on a golf ball, and you'd be like, man, this is delicious. Yeah.
That's a good way.
So yeah, so it's just like after a while, it's just like that's the trap that an artist falls into when they do every record so differently. It's like we got strings on this one, and this one's nothing but voices, and this one is this, and you're expecting like something really extreme and different, and then she puts out a record where she's just like doing all of her Bjork stuff, and it's like,
I talk about to people about Bjork occasionally, and you get the left and right. They like her, but then they don't really know her. But in a way, she's
right,
one of those artists that is really, the perfect example of an auteur. She's not just a
sure,
musician. She's not just a record maker. Her covers. I mean, she creates the style. Obviously, she works with a group of
hmm,
people. She's one of those producers, and I don't mean producers as someone producing music in the studio with mixing boards, but the production of the whole, there's the French word mise en scène, creating the whole
yeah,
environment of the picture, the visual, the audio, like a filmmaker. Laurie Anderson was like that with some of her stuff and some of her multimedia stuff, which she's into, and motion pictures, and some of it is challenging to some people. And
well, yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Because but you're right, she has everything in place, from the artwork to she's living in a world that's like, inside of her headphones or some shit like that, and and it's oftentimes a mixture of no well, first of all, no guitars, no guitars there after that first record. No more guitars, and which is a kind of a
I
bummer to
didn't
me,
realize
but
that. I guess you're. I mean, I didn't think about it.
but
Yeah.
she talks trash on guitar constantly, just like no guitars. But to a guy like me whose whole life revolves around guitars, it's a it's nice to be able to put that on and say, this is beautiful, and I don't need to hear any twiddly twiddlies, today, and it's fantastic. But yeah, she's living in her own. She's definitely living in her own world there, and she's got great stuff. It's just I need to get to that place with her like I am with Jim, where I can get past the parody, and now because she's to that level now, to where it's like,
Yeah.
but I need to get past it.
You have to be there. You have to get there, and it's not. Oh, it's one of those things I can't just put on if someone's coming over and say, "Let's put on some music." It's not even normal danceable music for party records either, because it goes from one level to something really small and minimal. But I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's fantastic stuff, and
Okay, another band I'm going to do, as long as we have some time here, is one of my favorite bands. I don't see them get a lot of coverage here, which I'm surprised. They do in the psychedelic period, and they're not even all psychedelic. But one of my favorite bands, um, and one of the bands I did see, and I don't know, not early on, maybe 73. So the second incarnation is Traffic. And
Oh yeah,
this is a repress of the Sunday's repress of Heaven is in Your Mind. In America, it came out like this, and then they changed the name to Mr. Fantasy, because that
sure.
was the song that got the heavy radio play.
Great song.
What's interesting about this shows the trio, and talk about a tempestuous band and someone. This is a Canadian version of the same album, and this is a pretty rare album, Traffic Reaping. And
Cool.
there's actually 4 guys in the band, and the one missing is Dave Mason. Dave Mason is someone, to me, they're a band that their second self-titled record is by far their best record. To me, it's a perfect record. It opens up side 1 and side 2 with both Dave Mason tracks. It's got Feelin' All Right, which became an anthem for, not an anthem, but everyone from Joe Cocker, to Delaney and Bonnie and Friends on tour. Dave Mason went with them on tour. Great guitar player. He made that one great record for Blue Thumb that had the marbleized vinyl in the 70s. After that, he made shit records for the rest of his life, I think. Maybe 1 or 2 tracks. I don't know what happened, because I loved his voice. I loved it. But great record. Something about him, I think he added something to the band. And then they got more into sort of this jazzy, long-winded stuff with low spark of high heel boys and that kind of period. But then they actually made, I found out, and I kind of looked this up, and I didn't realize in the 2000s or late 90s, they made an album that I don't count, because I've never heard of it, never saw it. But this is what I'm considered their final record. It came out in 1974. So that's early to have their final record. But
Sure.
the key to them is Jim Capaldi, great percussionist and a great singer. Obviously, Stevie Winwood, at 17 or 18, he was singing with the Spencer Davis Group, Give Me Some Lovin'. What a great voice. Right?
Fantastic.
And Chris Wood. A lot of people don't know about Chris Wood or hear about a flautist, sax player, but mostly the flute. He added this flute sound to these records. This is a beautiful record. It opens up with this beautiful song, and I love when a song fades in. There aren't a lot, but it's called Walking in the Wind. It fades in. It's one of those things that takes like literally a minute and a half to really fade in. You think, what the fuck? And you start turning the stereo up, and then you're blown away by the time it fades in.
Right.
But when they go Fly, Winwood and Capaldi. Anyway, love this record. It's not expensive. I'd say pick it up if you got it. It's got a nice feel to it. But Traffic, to me, I saw them once again, and I love it. But that second album, the self-titled record, is a record that everyone needs to have. Do you have that record?
I do have that record, as a matter of fact. Yes, I do. But the record I'm going to show next, we're talking about, listen, Mazzy, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about music that happened in the early 80s at the Stone, at the Mabuhay, at Ruthie's Inn, at the Kabuki, at the Warfield.
And I probably saw him. Oh,
probably, maybe, or maybe not.
I did see him.
We're talking about Metallica, Kill 'Em All. This is the first record. Thrash metal, OGs, right? And they're the ground zero of the Bay Area thrash metal thing.
And
right?
Vinyl Richie calls them an LA band.
Well, no. This is Bay Area.
I agree. I agree.
And there's a lot of debate about like what the greatest thrash metal record of all time is. It's probably maybe the next record I'm going to show, but it could also be Exodus's Bonded by Blood, possibly Death Angels, the Ultraviolence, but more than likely it's this, Metallica's Master of Puppets. This is actually only their third record, but
so you're playing by your own rules. There's a reason.
I am. That's right, because Metallica, in just 3 more records, they're going to suck bad and never make a good Metallica record again.
What do you think about Lulu? Have you heard of Lulu?
I've heard of Lulu.
That's the
Is this
one
something I need to look into?
it's, I don't have it, and it's the album they did with Lou Reed.
Oh, yeah. No, see,
I kind of
no,
want to
never
get it
mind.
now. I
I
don't have
heard
it.
some tracks off that and was like, phew. But this is the masterpiece. You know, Cliff Burton, the bass player, he died in a bus accident. They were on tour in Europe. Bus flips over. He falls out the window. It falls on top of him. But you know, Cliff is more harmonically sophisticated than all the other guys in the band, and melodically more sophisticated. And he's just a monster beast on the bass. You know, he's more in the Sabbath kind of vein and tradition, where the other guys are more into that new wave of British heavy metal thing. So he's like really adding like this real super kind of deeper, darker element to it. And once he's dead, you know, they make this record, Injustice for All, right? Which is a prog metal record, and it's fantastic. But what happened is you had a changing of the guard. See, Cliff was the secret mastermind behind the Metallica band. And once he's dead, then Hetfield steps up. And what happens is they get a little taste of a radio hit in the song One. And then that ruins the fucking band, because then that's all the label wants.
Now,
Is
in what
more
order? See,
One.
I don't follow. I mean, I know Metallica. I've watched them. I guess going back to the '80s, the only one album I have of theirs and the one track I love because I just love the sound of it was Enter Sandman. And
Right. There's a Black Album. Yeah,
and
that's
what
right after
order?
this record.
Oh, see,
So the Black Album comes after this. But here's the thing, though, Mazzy, is the Black Album, every song on the Black Album was played on the radio. Every one. Bob Rock produces, you know, and they think, and to many of the original thrash metal guys, they hate the Black Album not because it's a bad record, but
it brought people
because
like me in.
no, because it's no longer this.
Yeah.
And basically that's what I was talking about earlier, is you have the original spirit of the band, and then a lot of bands will come to a big turning point, like ZZ Top. You know, they have these first 4, 5, 6 records that are
They're more
fantastic.
rootsy. They're very rootsy.
Right. Yeah. Then they hit the Eliminator. They have huge commercial success. And then essentially they spend the rest of their career chasing it.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what's going on with these guys.
That's a whole conversation. We could have gone in that direction of bands that just change and they get on there. You know, I mean, you know me. Well, I go back to the Beatles. I love that every album they were going something different. They weren't chasing themselves.
Right. Well, that is a more meta kind of a concept about this whole discussion. Is first albums, last albums. Where do they start and where do they end? You know, and what happened to them in between. It's not really about the first and last album. It's about what happened to the band in between. Like Tom Petty, who I started out with, I was really happy after hearing that Hypnotic Eye today. I listened, put it on and spun it, and I thought, you know, they went out. Tom went out after making a record that it was for pretty much the joy of making music, not necessarily for any commercial endeavors or
he wasn't chasing
anything.
It. Yeah.
No, he was just, they were just making cool records they had their little their compound where they can record and get together and jam, and that's what they were doing. And it is tragic that we lost Tom Petty, but I have to say, you know, his output is fairly authentic, really strong, and they never sold out.
And there's no clunkers. I mean, there's some that don't work maybe quite as well, but there are no clunkers. And I've revisited, obviously, after I have that box set, that second box set, and all those records. Sure. Again, as I said early on, it's a great feel to them.
Yeah, killing. Yeah.
I'm closing out with going back down the alphabet, not all the way to Z to X, and not the band X, but XTC. A fan, big band, big.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Andy Partridge, Colin Molden, those two are the nucleus of this band. Started out in the whole post-punk thing, short singles, on Virgin Records. Didn't get a lot of play, but you know, did better in the UK initially. But you know, the cult audiences like them here. Sure. Tempestuous years and evolution. Ironically, when they first did, I think Drums and Wires, when they first really got some major radio play, Andy Partridge, who's sort of the John Lennon evil genius of the band, but even more so because he it's funny. He's like the evil genius in a way, like with that dark sense of humor and little tempestuous attitude, like John Lennon. Yet he has a work ethic of Paul McCartney, who just works all the time.
Right.
And he thought that he would be the one, but the songs, I think, 10 Feet Tall and stuff was a Colin Moulding song that really got on the charts. Anyway, good record. Later, I think they got interesting. I followed them all along. I didn't get on with this record. I went back to it, but I love them. Of course, they went on and did the psychedelic stuff, and they did, later with the song Grass with Todd Rundgren and Black Sea, all that great stuff. Sued the record companies like every other band in the world, gets fucked by Virgin.
Yeah, you got to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. But also part of that, Andy Partridge had a fear of flying, wouldn't tour, phobia. I was lucky to see him at the Stone on Broadway the one time, maybe a couple times they came to Barrie. So I did see him once live, but then they end up doing their own record company or their own records. They wanted to do a double record, but they didn't have the money. So it came out separately, but XTC, Apple Venus, and Wasp Star. Again, it's really just him and Colin and orchestration. They paid a shitload of money for a day of a 40-piece orchestra on Abbey Road. Lush. I can't remember now. One of them works better than the other one. Now I'm blanking on which one. But, beautiful package, released on their own label on what's the name of the label? Monkey, Ape, whatever. Great stuff, but again, Andy Partridge to me is one of those he's a genius as a musician. He writes really catchy stuff. He did write a song on that, one of the more catchiest songs on that Monkees album that came out a few years ago. That's sort of the, the summer song. Yeah. He knows how to write a pop hit, and I have all these individual CDs that are like demo stuff, the whole series of CDs. And he was trying to be put up, I don't know if he was pitching to do a lot of the scores for the Disney movies, like A Bug's Life or those type of things, the animated things. Of course, Randy Newman gets them all with Toy Story, but he was pitching his thing. He would write great kid songs because he's got that catchy thing. So XTC, the beginning, the end, the evolution, almost like one man's brainchild. Zappa would have been another one like that, right?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So many.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Mazzy, we did it.
Bob,
this is fantastic. It would be a trip to do a real record. Like you can have up to 100 people on here, so we could get the whole. Like, it would be a trip to do a massive record hang on.
We got to figure out how to do. I know how to do it technically, but how do we do it? Where do we just show shit and talk about shit? Maybe that's the way to hang.
Why not? Yeah.
And who do we invite? Yeah. And who do we not invite? We don't want this to be like Revenge of the Nerds. What about Revenge of the Nerds? Remember?
Is it a fantastic film?
Two sequels. I think 2 sequels. Yeah. One of the Carradine brothers. Anyway, thanks, Bob, and
thank you.
My apologies to cheating on you. Hopefully, Jeffrey Lee Puckett is doing okay in his renovation at home.
He'll be fine. The singer of the Cult is who the Doors had.
Rick is Astley or no? Astley? No.
Whatever his name is, But yeah. All right, okay. Mazzy.
Mazzy loves you. Bye, Bob.
Bob out.